Welcome to Vanadium. I'm Chris Rankin. The more I learn about this mad world, the more mysterious it seems. They've been described in written record, going back to the dawn of history. Generations of children have been cautioned about this peculiar kind of human being since the earliest days of civilization, since before warnings even existed. Watch out for these puzzling people. People who are far more evil than the worst movie villains. People with contempt for morality and decency itself. People who live to negate what is most beloved to their fellow man. People who live to destroy, to torment, not out of pain or revenge, but for pleasure, because it's their nature. I used to think evil was just an idea, something used to reduce reality to a simpler form, just a concept to help understand the world. I thought evil only existed in pure form in the dark part of the imagination. I used to think people who performed evil acts were only the deranged and traumatized, that most horrifying human crimes were just psychological glitches, flukes, and outliers. Now I understand evil is far more complicated and more common, and for some, it just comes natural. There are people out there that were born to hunt others. Social predators. Psychopaths. Evil, in a general sense, is defined more by what it is not. Evil is the opposite or total absence of good. The opposite or adversary to the very force of life. Evil may be natural, or perhaps even a supernatural force. Psychopathy, which is sometimes considered synonymous with sociopathy, is a personality disorder characterized by persistent, callous, and exploitative interpersonal interactions, antisocial behavior, with the affected displaying impaired empathy and being totally without remorse. Some studies estimate roughly 1% of the population fit this criteria. Psychologist Robert Hare created a test to determine the intensity and depth of a person's psychopathic qualities. The Psychopathy Checklist and Revised Form, the PCL, and PCL-R. The test is scored 0 to 40, with normal people scoring very low, typically 0, with 30 being the threshold for psychopathy to be formally established. Ted Bundy scored a 39 out of 40. The test establishes quantitative values in the following 3 categories: boldness, fearlessness and stress tolerance, comfort with unfamiliarity and danger, and high self-confidence and social assertiveness. 2. Disinhibition, poor impulse control, including problems with planning and foresight, lacking affect and urge control, demand for immediate gratification, and poor behavioral restraints. The 3rd, meanness. Psychopaths lack empathy and avoid close attachments with others. They use cruelty to gain empowerment. They display exploitative tendencies, defiance of authority, and destructive excitement-seeking. Here's a quote from Robert Hare, the creator of the test. "He will choose you, disarm you with his words, and control you with his presence. He will delight you with his wit and his plans. He will show you a good time, but you will always get the bill. He will smile and deceive you, and he will scare you with his eyes. And when he is through with you, and he will be through with you, he will desert you and take with him your innocence and your pride. You will be left much sadder, but not a lot wiser. And for a long time, you will wonder what happened and what you did wrong." The callous use of the lonely is a trademark of psychopaths. Many in the field of psychiatry have arrived at one definite conclusion. Not all psychopaths are serial killers, but all serial killers are psychopaths. Although no psychiatric or psychological organization has sanctioned an official diagnosis of psychopathy, assessments of psychopathic characteristics are widely used in criminal justice settings. The DSM, an International Classification of Diseases, the ICD, introduced the official diagnoses of antisocial personality disorder and dissocial personality disorder, respectively, to refer to psychopathy and sociopathy. Robert Hare defines sociopaths as distinct from psychopaths, saying sociopathy is caused by growing up in and adapting to an antisocial or criminal subculture, rather than a basic lack of emotion or moral reasoning. Hervey Cleckley, a pioneer psychiatrist, wrote a book, The Mask of Sanity, originally published in 1941, providing the most influential clinical description of psychopathy in the 20th century. Cleckley's work influenced the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality disorder in the DSM. Cleckley describes the psychopath as outwardly a perfect mimic of a normally functioning person, able to mask or disguise the fundamental lack of internal personality structure, to conceal an internal chaos that results in repeatedly purposeful, destructive behavior. Cleckley was a psychiatrist for the prosecution in the 1979 trial of serial killer Ted Bundy. After interviewing Bundy, he quickly diagnosed him as a psychopath. What is the origin of evil? Does it have a cause? No chemical or physical abnormality has ever been shown to be associated with psychopathy. Trauma may play a role, but perhaps a secondary one. This may be a case of nurture unfolding nature. Psychopathy is generally considered untreatable, among the most refractory of personality disorders, a group of mental illnesses already known to be difficult to treat. Psychopaths are usually unmotivated to seek treatment for their condition and are often uncooperative in therapy. Albert Einstein said, "It's easier to denature plutonium than to denature the evil spirit of man." What makes psychopaths different from all others is the remarkable ease with which they lie, the pervasiveness of their deception, and the callousness with which they carry it out. That's from Robert Hare. A large body of research suggests that psychopathy is associated with atypical responses to distress signals from other people, specifically impaired emotional empathy in the recognition of and response to facial expressions and vocal tones, signs of fear, sadness, pain, and happiness. All these are meaningless to psychopaths. They do very well in a large population of altruistic and trusting individuals ready to be exploited. What's unsettling is that some studies also suggest that some traits associated with psychopathy, such as early promiscuous, adulterous, and coercive sexual behavior, may increase reproductive success. Robert Hare has stated that many psychopathic males have a pattern of mating with and quickly abandoning women, and thereby have a high fertility rate, resulting in children that may inherit a predisposition to psychopathy. Experts in this field of psychology have noted a general process for the parasitic relationship between psychopaths and their hosts. The first step, temptation. The host's curiosity goes up and their guard goes down. Then bonding. The relationship takes on a heightened intensity. Collusion. The host is eager to please the psychopath, to give in to their expectations and demands. Self-doubt. The host loses confidence and trust in their own decisions. Abuse. This comes in the form of physical and emotional domination by the psychopath. Then, realization. The host begins to see the situation for what it is. They begin to suspect something is very wrong. Next, shame. The host is often too embarrassed to actually seek help. The last phase, anger and vindication. There's revenge, there's moving on. And sometimes one can't quite move on in quite the same way. Good people are rarely suspicious. They cannot imagine others doing the things they themselves are incapable of doing. Usually they accept the undramatic solution as the correct one. This is from Robert Hare. He also said, "We are far more likely to lose our life savings to an oily-tongued swindler than our lives to a steely-eyed killer." The psychopathic personality type has been widely explored in fiction with some unforgettable examples. Author John Steinbeck presented a stunning depiction of a hollow-souled psychopathic villain. Not a serial killer, but a serial liar, manipulator, and exploiter. Someone who, as Steinbeck put it himself, a psychic monster with a malformed soul. Kathy Ames, is the main antagonist in Steinbeck's novel East of Eden. She's married to the main protagonist, Adam Trask, and she's a mother of his twin sons, Caleb and Aaron. Beneath her disarming facade, she's an evil person who manipulates and destroys others for amusement and profit. In a letter to a family friend, Alan Ludden, Steinbeck states, "Kate is a total representative of Satan." It's been suggested that Steinbeck may have called on some of his own life experience to develop the character of Kathy Ames. Because, of course, the worst examples of psychopaths are in the real world. People like this have created such problems in society that science has even started to look into the matter to identify patterns in our society. How dark personalities can influence our schools, families, churches, and workplaces, and what might be done about it. Psychologists believe that although psychopathy is manifested only in a small percentage of the general population, it is much more common at higher levels of corporate, government, and media organizations. We serial killers are your sons. We are your husbands. We are everywhere. And there will be more of your children dead tomorrow, said Ted Bundy. It can be difficult to spot a psychopath, but one can sometimes feel their dark gravity. Notice the signs and stop the process before it's too late. Knowledge is the thing that will keep you from becoming their prey. Are there real monsters out there? There are those possessed by evil, who hide under a banner of decency and take pleasure in the pain of others. So my answer would be yes. Not only that, these real monsters make the storybook versions look cute and cuddly. Thank you very much. This is Chris Rankin with Vanadium.